Hey guys, Ben Rad here. Hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create some really hard-hitting electronic dance music kicks and snares using the ES2 synthesizer in Logic. I'm actually going to split this video up into two videos because I think the first one's probably going to be quite a long one, and that's going to be for the kick. Let me just play to you the sounds that I've created, and it'll hopefully demonstrate why it's so important to use some of the techniques I'm about to show you. So there's a lot of tutorials out there on how to create some snares, and especially how to create kicks using ES2 or other similar synthesizers, but I find that they really don't offer the same punch that a lot of people require and often get from their sample packs. Now, the reason I want to show you how to create your own drum samples is because I think it's important to be able to create the right sound for your track instead of having to rely on sample packs. And that's certainly what I like to try and do. So let's get straight into it, really. What I'm going to do, I'm going to move that over there, and I'm going to solo off this new session of ES2, just to kind of give you an example where I start. So opening up ES2, I'm not trying to hide this from anyone. I just go to tutorial settings and to the vector kick setting. And what this is this is a preset which shows you the basics of how a kick is created using what they call in the business self-resonating oscillators. Let me play you that kick as it stands. So that's not exactly a huge kick. You know, how on earth did I get those kicks and those snares from this? Well, that's important to show you. So what you'll first notice is no oscillators turned on whatsoever. We're not having any oscillators actually playing a role in here because what we've got is we've got this FLT reset turned on. And what that does is when you've got within your filters, when you've got really high resonance in the filters, by doing the FLT reset, what that does is that sends a very short pulse into those filters, and the resonance actually causes it to create a self-resonating oscillator. And that is the thump that you hear. So let's ignore the filters for now, and what I want to concentrate is the vector modulation down here. Everyone using ES2 will recognize the router modulation. This is the vector modulation. And I want you to pay close attention to this bit here and also to the X and Y values here. So what we're looking at is, for this particular instance, we've got 4 dots that we can click on. And every time those dots are clicked, something on the X and Y axis changes. And so what these dots are is they're essentially demonstrating a particular point when that sound is created or when the note comes in. And you can modulate at those points. Where you see the S, that's where the actual sustain is. And so what you're basically noticing is the X is going closer to the center. What does that mean? So you'll see here that the X target is cut off 2. This filter here. Now it could be any of the filters, oscillators, pitches, everything that you're used to modulate. And what we're looking at here down below is the int, is the initial value for that cutoff. So you'll notice that what that basically means is as far off to the right you're talking about that particular level of cutoff, and then in the middle you're looking at the lowest cutoff. Now, what does that do? Well, let's see. If we actually lower that initial cutoff down to, let's say, I don't know, around 65, what that's going to do is that's going to mean that the actual initial level of cutoff frequencies is actually lower. So you're going to be cutting off a lot of those high frequencies. Let's listen to that. Yeah? You can hear the difference? So that's one way to do things. Of course, if you want to be diligent on this, you can actually edit exactly how this this sound is formed by actually changing the x-axis for each of these dots. I'm not going to bother doing that because, to be honest, it sounds good already to me. So what we're going to do is we're going to move up to the filters before we move up to anything else. You'll notice the blend is right in the center of two series filters. Now, the one that's important that I like to concentrate on is this cutoff here on the right. You'll notice that about 0.04. Now, what this cutoff is doing is this is dictating where the resonance peak is actually coming in terms of what frequency. So, if I was to bring in an equalizer, let's see if we can bring this down here, see if that'll fit, and put the analyzer on. Let's hear what that sounds like so far. Now you'll recognize a peak there. If we raise this, that peak will in fact likely change, and you'll hear that in the sound. It'll sound like a higher frequency. Okay? So what we can do is by lowering this all the way down to the bottom, we get ourselves a really nice low kick. That peak is as low as the synthesizer is going to allow. But you can create even higher pitch. See? Ooh, nasty. So we'll drop that down to the bottom. Now, you can play around with this as much as you want, and you can get a good understanding as to how that's going to create a sound. So what we're going to do is, based on that particular demonstration, I'm going to move on to the actual sound that I've created using the vector methodology. So I'm going to solo on our low kick, and it's the low kick that I've actually used the vector kick preset for. You'll notice I haven't actually changed any of the attack, decay, sustain, or release for these, but I can assure you, if you muck around with them, they do actually change the sound of, or the structure of the sound, sorry. So in the same way you would normally. Now you'll notice I've got the frequency all the way down to the bottom. I haven't really played around with too much beyond that, if I'm honest. What is important, however, and let's have a listen to that firstly. You'll notice that there's not any highs at all on that. And that's because what I've done is, this is going to be our low kick. I've put a high cut on for about 180, so no frequencies above 180 will come through. And I've also put on a compressor. I'm pretty sure this is a default compression. It's from one of the presets. It's nothing too exciting. So that's what we've done to create the low side of the kick. Now what we've also got is we've got the high side of the kick. And you remember what they sound like together? Okay. Now the high side, this is where a lot of the tutorials on YouTube you'll find are actually focusing on, but it's not great for a really, really thumping kick. Let's look at it. You'll notice I've essentially copied the first low kick sound. You'll see that because it still shows the vector preset, but you'll notice that actually I'm starting to use oscillators now, and I've turned the FLT reset off. The only reason that I've copied that is so that I have exactly the same attack, delay, sustain, and release times as the low kick, so that the kicks essentially follow the same velocities and they sound similar. We've turned on two oscillators, the first and the third. First we've got a sine wave down 1 octave, and we've got some noise, and we've mixed the noise in as much as we feel like. Important thing to mention: in order to get a thump sound from a low sine wave, you do need to adjust the pitch. So what I've done is I've taken the pitch 1, 2, 3. It could just be pitch 1 if I wanted, and thrown that against envelope 2, which is quite a quick decay. Let me just show you what it sounds like if I raise it up. Yeah, do you get the picture? So essentially it is creating high pitch, very quickly low pitch, that creates a thump. Since we're no longer using the self-resonating oscillators as well, I've moved the filter all the way over to Cutoff Filter 2, because that's all we need really. And what I'm using that is merely to cut off the real high ends of the noise. And I've just fiddled around with the resonance a little bit as well. Notice that the distortion and the tone of the distortion are also quite high up, as it was the original vector kick. Now if I put the cutoff all the way top, bit too many highs there, so let's lower that down. And you basically adjust that and the resonance to get it feeling exactly as you want. I put the fat on as well, without, with. And that's essentially our highs, that's our high kicks. All I've done is I've thrown on a low cut, because obviously we don't want it to have low frequencies clashing with our low kick. But what that means is that when they play together, okay. So I think the most important thing to really focus on here is we're not just creating one kick sound, we're creating two kick sounds. We're creating one low one and one high one. That gives benefits not only for filling out the sound and making sure that those kick sounds come through in the mix, but also it means that you can play around with taking out the lows to kind of almost give it a feel of a low cut on the main kick, but it really kind of can allow you to play around with certain percussive parts of your song which don't necessarily require a huge thump underneath it. So I hope you've enjoyed that video. That's a real very quick touch on the vector modulation, self-oscillating, self-resonating oscillators, and how you can use them to create big thumping kicks. The next video is going to be a shorter one. It's going to be on the snare sound. If you've enjoyed this, give a thumbs up, subscribe and all that stuff, and I hope to see you in the second part of this video.